Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sean here with BlueRidgeSilverhound, and we have their midweek edition Pocket Change Market Report, this time for December 8th. Is it just me, or is this month just completely flying by at a record pace? I don't know what it is. I felt like that Thanksgiving was just here a few days ago, but no, it's more like 2 weeks ago. And then, we had the beginning of the month, and then now here we are 8 days in with, just a couple short weeks left until Christmas. Hopefully you guys are, by the way, getting all your shopping done. Not me. Not me. I'm one of your prototypical stragglers all the way to the very end. But you know what's not straggling, and that's the coin market. Most specifically, some of these errors and varieties just are amazing. We have 35 coins to talk about in this video, all of which had sold on eBay just in the last 24 to 36 hours. Some of these coins are going to blow your mind. But before we jump in, I want you guys to remember two very important numbers, because it might even change the way you feel about coinage today. 2020 and 2021. All right, so we got two different dates, 2020, 2021. You guys, if you have the ability to look for any coins from these two dates, and guess what? That's this year and last year. If you have the ability to go through any sort of quantity of either of these two dates, then you might be finding some pretty insane stuff. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard it from myself, surely you've heard it from some of the other coin YouTubers out there. 2020 and 2021 has been kind of the gravy train that you want to ride on, because there's a lot of errors to be found. We have a couple more to talk about in this video, a couple newer ones as a matter of fact. But, as long as the mint continues to just kind of stay one step behind in the quality control department, there's bound to be more errors to come in 2022. Now, there's no better time to search than now. You want to be able to get your fill of whatever's left over in 2021, because the coins will still be in really nice shape. And to collectors who pay large premiums for these errors, grade is everything. If they could get one that's in mint state condition still, they're going to pay you all the money. Okay, so you got big bucks coming your way if you want to put the work in. Now, as we head into 2022, kind of like a little immediate timeline, or kind of like a timeline to look forward to. Normally we see the first circulation coinage drop around the first week of February. That's an important date to kind of keep in mind. And then once the new coins start to roll out for 2022, what does that happen to all of the previous coins? People begin to kind of stop looking through them, number one. Number two, those coins will continue to circulate at a record rate. So as coins circulate through time, obviously they're not going to be in that great a shape. So if you did find one of these errors, let's say next year or further on down the road, they're not going to command nearly as much money as you could get for them today, strictly based off of grade and condition. All right. So as you guys know, all the listings here, we're using raw images. None of the coins are graded. We don't talk about that. That costs tons of money to do. Why do that on a $20 error when it's still going to be worth $20 after you grade it? All right. It's beyond me why people do it, but I'm going to tell you right now, no graded coins. And furthermore, we're going to be using the raw seller images. They might be a little bit out of focus, they might be a little bit cut off, or whatever the case may be, but you'll get raw images. All right, so that way you can kind of see what kind of bar has been set, for overall presentation, because the coins still all sell. All right, each and every single one of these are confirmed sold listings. So we're, 5 minutes into this thing. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I do apologize for that long intro. How about a 2015 Homestead quarter? Now, after so many years, your coins begin to look like this, right? You know, they look like they've seen a little wear and tear, but still, you want to pull these out. I'm not saying you don't pull them out, but you got to remember, the higher the grade, the more that they're going to be worth. 2015 P Homestead quarter has a lot to look through. It's got a nice mix of errors and varieties. Now, this is not a variety, but, you know, you'll focus right here in the middle of the coin, right on this building. These window panes right here, you'll find doubled window panes. You'll find the doubled pump handle variety, which is DDR number 4. That's always a good one. But this one right here, ladies and gentlemen, is on the list because it's got this phenomenal right-sized here die chips on the roof of this building, where, you know, collectors and sellers and roll hunters have called this the snowy roof error. All right, and it kind of fits. It's cool, you know, and collectors really have taken a liking to this particular error. So, you know, little bits and pieces of the die had broken off, you know, after so many strikes and wear and tear. So when new coins are struck off of those beat up dies, you're going to get things like this, where, you know, at one point there was pieces of die that had, you know, what else can I say, right? When a piece of die falls out, it's going to turn into a blob on the coin because there's no area to strike at that point. But this one right here, in its current condition, keep in mind, still sold for $6. I mean, that's not nothing. And I always tell folks, if you're going to get into the business of hunting through change and then selling it to try and make some supplemental income, you got to take the small transactions with the big. All right, so keep that in mind. Sell it all, make a mound of money, kind of like snowy roof mound of money. The next one that we have here, I'm willing to bet a lot of you don't know that there's a pretty nice double die obverse for 1972D. Collectors and, you know, cherry pickers are all hung up on 72 Philadelphia minted coins just based off of the myriad of different double dies that you could find on that date. But 72D, believe it or not, has a couple really nice double dies. This one right here looks to be in pretty nice shape. If we look at some of these close-ups here, you're going to see some doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust." You can see the notching and the splits and all that great stuff. So I have a few pictures of the motto. There's the date. You do have some notching, top left of the 7, top left of the 2. The 9 is slightly distorted and stretched. I mean, that's pure straight up double die right there. And then, of course, you got Liberty. You got some nice distorted stretching on there as well, along with splits. Primarily at the bottom of the L is real nice. And then bottoms of the B and E is particularly noteworthy as well. This one is also a Cherry Picker's Guide variety. Okay, it's FS 102 in the Cherry Picker's Guide book. And this one, ladies and gentlemen, you're never going to believe, sold for $44.25. Bust out some of those Denver 72s and get to work. There's a lot of value to be found here in this state. Our first piece of currency is going to be actually a much older silver certificate. This is a 53A. I mean, the note is pretty well circulated. Outside of that, there's really nothing else going on other than that kind of line going right down the middle. You know, obviously the printer had missed an area, right? But what we really have here is actually a gutter fold error. And these happen when the sheets have a little bit of a wrinkle in them. So if the wrinkles aren't stretched out, all right, the BEP employees will just print right over them. Or the machinery, actually, the presses will print right over these areas. So, you know, when you have something like this, it's really neat. These things command, you know, a pretty decent amount of money, especially for higher graded notes. What I like about this one is it's a silver certificate and it's a little bit higher denomination. We normally see these on $1 silver certificates, but here's a 5. Not too bad. There's the back of the note, so even the back print has that same gutter fold as well. So the sheet was never stretched at any one point. It wasn't until after it was all said and done where someone stretched the note out, and then you have that really nice gutter channel with no print whatsoever. So even in this condition, ladies and gentlemen, it's still sold for $54. You're probably asking yourself, well, you know what, Blue Ridge, you don't really find stuff like this out in the wild. Yeah, that's true. Your best bet is going to be like a local coin shop or a show. This is a low-end type of error, and, when it's in this condition, there are dealers that are just going to want to blow them out. They'll offer $10, $15, $20 for them, but at least they have a much nicer secondary market. So keep that in mind if you come across one of these. Our next coin here is actually going to be a statehood quarter. This is a really nice error. It's a 1999p New Jersey statehood quarter. This one has a partial tilted collar. I mean, look at that right there. So the collar was not quite engaged all the way to keep the coin in the striking chamber. It was slightly tilted. So that's how you got that kind of railroaded edge rim effect right there. But you see it on both sides. All right, so this is not a misaligned eye or anything like that. This is a full-on partial tilted collar. When you look up close, the collar was just slightly engaged enough to be able to strike just enough of the reeded edge on there, but not all the way. You can see it's just a little bit of a sliver as notated by the seller arrows in there. So even when like this, I keep telling folks, statehood quarter errors are quite a scarcity, and this just goes to show it and proves at $36.25 that every single one that is found will command a decent kind of premium on the secondary market. So keep that in mind. People that do collect statehood quarter errors, collect by state. It's kind of like a virtual collect 'em all type of series. And, when one this nice comes up, there's going to be a few people battling for it. Now, we've talked about 1983p Washington quarters, especially the off-center struck coins. They kind of grow on trees, but where a lot of the value is going to stem from this particular date is going to be condition and how far much of a spread that off-center error is. Now, this one here is pretty nice. It's probably off-center by about 10%, and it's in really nice shape. This particular example sold for $40.95. Now, this one doesn't look like much, and more than likely a lot of people will overlook something like this, but this is a 69S. If you're not looking for the double die, you're looking for other things for this date. Believe it or not, there are two very shallow rim clips on here. You see this one, obviously, at the K12 position, and then you have this one here around K2. It's a very shallow, not even curved, but, it is there. That is a very, very slight clip. The coin's in nice shape, and, this one's still sold for $6.95. Even if it's so minor, pull them out. They are still worth a few bucks to a collector. Now, here's another 2021 coin that you guys need to be on the lookout for. Yes, I've covered just about every conceivable 2021 coin from here to Kingdom Come. The pennies and the quarters have been just the big news stories of the year. How about a Roosevelt dime in the mix? This one has a number of tiny little die chips, okay? You remember that whole kind of just explanation of how bad the quality control is at the mint? Yeah, we want more of that so we could find stuff like this. Now, this is a 2021 Philadelphia Roosevelt dime. Okay, so this one has a die chip right in the hair of Mr. Roosevelt. All right, and then there's a few extras on the reverse as well. Bottom of the torch, and in this oak leaf little sprig right here. That's where you're going to find all of these neat little die chips. This one, believe it or not, sold for $9.25, and that's with 4 bids. Keep in mind, once the mint begins to get a handle of their quality control, you better say bye-bye to these, because we don't know if more is going to exist. Now, here's another 1983p Washington quarter. Now, this one is much more off-center, about 20% in this case. The coin is in great shape as well, and because of that, this one was able to fetch $48.02 on eBay, and that's with 4 total bids. And then here is also a 1984, so there is just barely a little remnant of the 4 in the date in there, but this one is off center by about 50%, right down the middle. It's a nice shape, and it's a much tougher date that is needed in a date set of off-center Lincolns. There is a few people that bid on this. $15.13 realized for this example, and that's with 14 total bids altogether. And here's also a 1999 P Jefferson nickel. This one is off-center by about 15%. And this has got to be one of the nicest looking Jefferson nickel off-center strikes I've seen in quite some time. The grade is real nice. It's a nice hefty mint state condition coin with full steps. This thing was struck very nice. This example sold for $26, and that's through 8 bids combined. Now, this is the only picture that was actually on this particular listing, but you know what this is. This is a brand new 2021 P Washington crossing the Delaware quarter. Okay, it's a 1-year shot type coin, and these are well known for their die chips and all sorts of other great stuff. This one has the kind of like the beginning stages of that gnarly crown die chip. This one, of course, is on top of the hat of Washington on the reverse. This one is what I would consider to be like an early to mid-state kind of look to this. I mean, even in this size of chip, it's still worth money. This one sold, ladies and gentlemen, for $37.16, and that's with 12 bids. Lots of free, easy tendies in 2021 coins. Do not miss the boat. Very rarely do you come across a much older coin. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be this Lincoln cent you see here. It's a 1944. It could be a Jefferson nickel, a quarter, whatever. But when you come across something like this with an error as simple as a curved clip, man, there's just something about these that just kind of speaks on a whole different level. I think it's because of the obsolete reverse design, this coin is very attractive. Nice mint state red. It does have a few carbon spots, but still a keeper. This one sold for $19.95. All right, calling all coin roll hunters. If you're just looking for silver and half-dollar rolls and you're skipping stuff like this, oh man, you are really short selling yourself. So this is a 1972D Kennedy half-dollar. Look at it. The coin is beat up. It's been circulated. There's really no other fanfare going on with this coin other than the fact that it is missing the FG initials. And those normally would be sitting here between the eagle leg and the tail feathers. This one has been over-polished to the point that it has disappeared. Now, these exist on a few dates. Okay, you're going to find these on 72, 72D, 1982P, and 1983P as well. There have been a few others discovered across various other dates. However, these are the examples that are in the Cherry Picker's Guide, so there's a little bit more attention to them. This one sold for $9.79. The last time I checked, that's more than how much a 90% half-dollar is. So make sure you're flipping these over and you're looking for those missing initials. Now, there's no error or variety on this coin. This is just a type coin, a very nice key date. I need to use the word nice relatively in this. It has its issues, but it's a 1912S Liberty Head nickel. Okay, you can see the S mint mark here on the reverse under this dot left of the word cents. Now, condition-wise, this is kind of like the type of coin that you would come across like in an old collection. Maybe it's in an album. Someone needed this date and mint mark to kind of fill up that set. But as you can see, we do have some corrosion issues here on the obverse of the coin. You could see that as well on the date. This might have been a previous dug coin. It was in the ground for a while, but you can also see some of that corrosion also in full display on the reverse. But even still, when you take a key date, all right, and it's going to be a coin that a lot of people need in any condition, it still has a lot of value. Now, one thing I will note, it does have all the letters in Liberty, so that probably would make this a net VG8, maybe a fine 12 in the grading scale by the time you factor in all the corrosion. But even a coin in this condition that's not a beauty queen still managed to sell for $102.51. And guess what? There was a collective of 36 bids that got it up to that level. That tells you a lot about how the coin market is going, is when you see just less than market acceptable type of coins like this still sell for a boatload of money. Well, here's another new coin, 2018 P Voyagers National Park Quarter. All right, you guys see what I'm looking at? Yeah, there's a pretty nice sized rim cut on the obverse of the coin. You could see it right there next to the mint mark. Upon closer examination, that's what that's going to look like. It's a nice, pretty, healthy swath of rim cut. Again, a piece of the die had broken off at one point, and then, you know, you're going to have a raised element on the coin after the strike. This one sold for $7.50, and that's with 4 bids. Keep in mind, if you think that's like nothing money, again, they all add up. When you sell something like this to go along with the other $5 to $10 coins, and then you sell that bigger coin at $30, you know, it all adds up, and it happens really quickly. Now here's a $5 bill. I mean, take a look at it. You guys know what's going on here. I probably don't even need to explain it, but you notice the overprint, you know, the serial numbers and the seals. They're all shifted up and to the left, all right? So we definitely have a misaligned third print on this one. Anytime you have some of these elements that are overlapping the first initial print on the front of the note, that's where a lot of the value is. Now, condition-wise, it's circulated. You even have a nice teller stamp in there, which is not an error, that actually does more damage to the note and, you know, affects the overall grade and value of the thing. But even still, a note like this, there's the back, by the way, for you guys. Pretty nice, just perfectly centered reverse print. This one still sold for $50.99, and that's with 15 bids. So if you think I'm crazy for saying that these aren't worth anything, well, think again. They are worth pulling out and possibly selling. You know, you just never know. Now, this is actually a lamination. It's on a 40% Kennedy half dollar. It's a 68D. And this is what used to be a clamshell lamination. So the coin had split right on that edge. Okay, and keep in mind, these are 40% silver for a reason. They're commonly referred to as silver clad. So they also have like copper and various other alloys in the composition, but you know, depending on how impure the mix is, you're gonna get stuff like this, where the silver clad, or the silver layer, actually comes apart and develops a clamshell right on the edge. But someone or maybe a machine had ripped off that clamshell, and this is what you got here on this one. This is the coin that's sold for $107.49. Again, for all you coin bugs out there that coin roll hunt and you come across something like this, this is a really cool coin to find and pull out, and they're worth a good deal of money. And don't forget to cherry pick some of the older coins as well. Here's a just run-of-the-mill, high-minted 1906 Indian head set with a rim clip. You know, you can see it right there on the left-hand side of the obverse of the coin. It is in nice shape, I will say that. Probably like a VF35, maybe XF40. You have full Liberty. You have like 3.5 diamonds here on this ribbon. You know, the coin has what I consider to be an acceptable amount of wear on there. And, you know, again, this is a very simplistic error on a much older coin. And this one sold for $21.50, and that's with 15 bids. So a lot of activity for a rather inexpensive Indian head set. So well done. Now, here's another coin to look out for. Man, I can't even believe that even into 2020, where, machinery is supposed to take over humans, right? And just really, perfect things at the US Mint level when it comes to production of these coins, they still manage to crank out crap like this. A 2020 shield set that is way off center by about 15%. Man, this thing is gnarly. But this is a much newer coin, and we're still finding things like this out there. This one sold for $20.06, and that's with 4 bids. Really nice. Now, condition sometimes doesn't matter in certain type of errors. We have a 1974 Lincoln Memorial set that has circulated a good deal, and it does have a little bit of corrosion. You can see the little green spots all around the edge and in some of the devices. But the big seller of this coin is going to be obviously that cut die break at the bottom of the coin right here. And you do have a little bit of weakness on the reverse. Okay, that's something to look out for. So again, to kind of preface what I had said earlier, a piece of the die had fallen off. Cuds normally really only affect the edge of the coin and go into the design. So something like this right here, even in this condition, still sold for $26.56, and that's with 2 bids. Well, what a great feeling to find a bicentennial something, with an error. Okay, how about this one? 1976 Bicentennial Kennedy. Oh boy, man, we're hitting some pretty gnarly, heavy-hitting coins here on the list now. This one right here is off-center by about 10, maybe 12, 13%, give or take. The coin's in really nice shape. You could see luster, especially here on the reverse. So, it's in really nice shape. But yeah, this is a really cool error on one of the most popularly collected coins of the modern era. This one sold for $73.73, and that's with 10 bids. What a beautiful coin. And here's a 1974 Ike dollar. Now, the coin is really not that fantastic shape. It's even got the good old ring of death on the reverse. You see this right here? So this at one point was a roll ender to a full roll. Okay, I hate to sound redundant, but that's what it is. But you do notice some weakness in the strike, especially on the obverse. So at first I thought this was a struck through grease, and I got to looking at this more. I'm like, well, the rim is really missing on 3/4 of this coin, and I have come to the conclusion that we're probably dealing with an Ike dollar that was struck on a slightly tapered planchet. All right, so the thickness is not it's not consistent all the way across. It actually gets a little bit thinner. So when that happens, it's not going to strike up all of the devices, most specifically the rim edge. I actually have a much better example coming up here next. But this 74 Ike sold for $48.27. Now here's another one of those coins struck on a tapered planchet. You do notice on this Jefferson nickel that, you see a lot of weakness here where it normally says in God we trust, and you don't see an actual rim almost all the way across on the top until you get to like Liberty. And then the same goes for the reverse as well. So this coin was even more tapered, okay, or actually the planchet was before the strike, and you have a lot of loss of devices on here. This particular example sold for $38.75, and that's with 3 bids. So just a really nice coin. And again, you find one of these out in circulation, at first it's going to trip you up. It can either be damaged, like someone hammered it to death, or perhaps it's a strike through grease. That's another common, association of stuff like this. Or the tapered planchet argument, which is what this one is. Either way, you definitely need to save stuff like this. Don't throw it back. Yeah, the coin's not in greatest shape, but it doesn't matter. To error collectors, they look what they search for things that sometimes they just can't find. This is like one of those maybe 2 or 3 times a year type of finds. Here's another 40%, this time a 67. Wow. And it's got one single rim clip on there, along with a little bit of Blakesley effect. So this little flattening here across from the actual clip is pretty nice, and that's a main diagnostical feature of a legitimate rim clip. So make sure you're looking out for that. But again, 40% silver half is worth what, $2.80 in today's silver market. This one sold for $20. I would trade in $3 for $20 all day long. Now, this is not an error, but I want to put this one on here because surprisingly, there was a lot of bidding activity on it, and I could see why. It's a 57D Lincoln wheat cent, but when you look at it close, it's got some major machine doubling. Not only in the date, man, this thing is crazy, but also take a look at the chin of Abraham Lincoln as well. So it's all screwed up. Machine doubling is just, part of the process where the dies were beginning to kind of wear out, or the mint presses, needed to have some calibration and tightening and all that. It just really means that there was a little bit of play in the die as a strike was happening. But this is such an incredible looking coin as far as shock value, that some people want a really major example of machine doubling, even though there's no guarantee that they'll be able to make up that kind of money when they go to resell it. So this one right here sold for $32.85. Just a really shocking amount of money, and that's with 11 bids. There was a lot of people interested in this coin. Here's a 1960D Jefferson nickel with a lamination, delamination. So the lamination had fallen out on the obverse of the coin. It's circulated with a lot of staining on there. This one sold for $10.50, and that's with 4 bids. Here's a 1989, this time a Denver. So all you folks on the West Coast that's feeling not a lot of love on this list, I'm happy to say that a Denver coin can exhibit the error that you see here. So the obverse of the coin looks like it's off center, but the back of the coin is pretty centered nicely. So what we have here is a misaligned die strike. All right, so the coin was struck with a rock solid reverse die or anvil die, but that hammer die that has the obverse design wasn't entirely aligned with the other die. So when it was struck, it was slightly off center a bit, and you could see that just in the thickness of the rim here. But this one, 1989 D, who would have thought that you would find anything on this date? Okay, do the extra double check on these. This one sold for $51.72. Now, this is a 2017 $1 bill. Now, I've talked about one of these on my last episode of the PCMR, but here's another one here for you. This one has insufficient inking error on the back. All right, so we've seen quite a few of these come up in circulation. People have been finding these pretty regularly. So this is brand new notes too. So again, we're seeing more quality control issues, and that's a good thing. All right, because if they're able to go ahead and circulate these through past quality control, that's a good thing for collectors. But yeah, you can see just the lightness of the ink. And then you can see this bar here on the right side that never got registered on there correctly. This one sold for $30.60, and that's with 5 bids. I will take 30 times face all day long on this one as well. Now, we do have a number of listings by Fred Weinberg. I mean, he's only the biggest error specialist on the face of this earth. Go ahead and check out his website. He's got a ton of great stuff, but he also sells on eBay too. Now, our first lot that we're going to look at is going to be a lot of 3 2002 Kennedy half dollars. Now, these were listed on here as having cuts, all right, or little die chips, or however you want to categorize these on here. It's a little bit unique offering by Fred Weinberg, but these have what they call collar cuts. So you see these little raised blobs here on the edge of the coin. Okay, so there is a little bit of a break in the collar die. And there you go. That's what it looks like. It'll show as little blobs, raised areas on the edge of the coin. And this lot of 3 sold for $18.50, and that's with 4 bids. Another Weinberg listing. This is going to be a no-date Washington quarter with, count them, 2 very big rim clips on there. This is also a Denver minted example as well. The coin is in really nice shape too, I will say that. And this one right here sold for $17.50, and that's with 8 bids. Here's another Weinberg classic, and one coin that I just absolutely love talking about. This is a 1970D, and by the way, this is the only date where you'll find this as of now. 70D Washington quarter that was struck on a much thinner dime stock. All right, so yeah, you could call it crazy, but they actually minted quite a few of these inadvertently, punched out of a strip that was as thin as dimes. All right, and they produced quarters out of them. You can just tell from the weakness on the obverse of the strike and a little bit on the reverse as well that this is exactly what this is. Just a great error. These things are being snatched up left and right when they do come out in the market. This one, no exception. Sold for $63, and that's with 16 bids. Wow, that is a phenomenal amount of money for this one. Here's another Weinberg coin, this time a 1998P with a really large centered broadstrike on here. So the collar was not present at all when this thing was struck, and all of that metal flow had to go outwards. So that's what you see here. I'm willing to bet this coin is probably as big as a standard size quarter. This one sold for $42, and that's with 14 bids. We got 3 more Weinberg listings to kind of end it out here for today. How about 1980 Lincoln Memorial Cent? This one is off center by about 80, maybe 85%. It's a uniface, so it doesn't have any of the reverse strike on there. It's just plain. But believe it or not, you actually have a full date. Now the coin looks like it's been cleaned, but that's okay. These are a rarity at this particular level where it's so far struck off center, but you still have a full date. I mean, every single number in the date is present on this coin. This one sold for $25.88, and that's with 16 total bids. So there was a lot of favorability on this one in spite of its condition. Here's a 77D. Now, the hits just keep on coming. Now, the big reason why this one sold for a good deal of money is that it is a tough date. All right, it's a Denver. Okay, Denver minted off-center strikes are what's the word I want to say for this one? I've said scarcity. I've said rarity. I don't know. How about scarcity rarity? We'll just go with that. But yeah, again, like I had mentioned, collectors of off-center strike coins, they collect these by date. So they want a full date and a mint mark, and this one has both, and it's on a much tougher dated coin. Now, we've seen 1977 Lincolns that are off-center before on the list, but this one is, I would say, the first Denver that we've come across in recent memory. This one sold for $43.01. Just a really stunning looking coin. I would say it's a nice mint state, probably 62-ish type of grade. Kind of hard to say if maybe it's circulated a little bit. It does have a little oxidation, but aside from that, if you need this for your set, man, just grab a hold of it and make sure you're holding on to the rails, because it's going to be a coin that is not going to sell cheaply. And then finally, how about this one? 1960D Lincoln Memorial Cent. Now, this is a large date. I'm willing to bet someone out there is looking for a large date and a small date of this particular type. This one is off-center by about 65%, somewhere around there. But what a pretty coin. This one exhibits some really clean surfaces on there. The color is just fantastic. It's a nice red-brown. You have a full date and a mint mark. I mean, in the perfect world, this thing would even have probably a repunch mint mark, because there was just a ton of them for 1960, and especially the Denver minted coins. This one is, no doubt about it, a much tougher date than it looks for an off-center strike. And they don't come around too often, so when it does, okay, the bidders will speak, and boy, were they loud. This one sold for $85, and that's with 17 total bids. What a tremendous show of coins for this week. Some varieties, some different stuff. But like I said before, 2021, there's only a small window left between now and probably February 1st where you could still untap brand new 2021s. We have pretty nice Jefferson nickels. We have Lincoln cents with a bunch of oddball, weird, just die chips and cracks and all sorts of different anomalies. And then those Washington quarters. You got the Tuskegee Airmen with the strike throughs. And then you also have the Crown die chip Washington crossing the Delaware. Again, easy money. If you're looking for it and you find them and you put into work, you will be rewarded handsomely. Okay, yeah, I've been doing this for too long. Talking for 40 minutes straight is not conducive to your long-term health. And that's why I'm going to dip out on you guys. So I want to thank you for joining in. I'm your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound. You know all the great deals. Like, share, subscribe, and all the other stupid stuff. The stuff that some people care about. I mean, I care about it, and so should you, because I care about you. And that's going to go ahead and do it, Coinaholics. We are discovering together, and I will see you on the next coin video. You guys take care.